Hey guys, Alien Sama back with some more aliens. Is it getting annoying yet? Because I have tons more NECA aliens on the way. I might take a little break in between because this will be the third alien in a row, but today from Alien vs. Predator for $34.99 Canadian, we have the Grid Alien. There's basically another alien in this set right there, exactly the same, but this one is the grid damaged one. The one that the Predator encased in the netting that would constrain and then eventually cut you into little pieces or just kill you. But because of the acid on his head, he got out. And now he has this cool looking scar on his head. So let's get him out of the box and take a closer look. As you can see right away, there is an extreme height difference. This guy has a full half centimeter over this guy when they're standing perfectly straight, which is kind of nice. He is very big, and for the price difference, because I only paid $24 for him, $39, it's nice to see that he is a bit bigger, as well as bulkier for sure. This is based off a humanoid suit that was worn by a human being, and this one over here was mostly and completely CGI. Also over here we have a difference in feet. This one has a very animalistic reptile kind of dinosaur looking foot, and over here very human. And that's basically the difference we're going to see throughout these. The hands, the feet, the body, the rib cage, they're basically the same thing, but this one is a little more feral because they didn't have a guy wearing a suit limiting them to their designs, which is kind of nice. There's also a very subtle but big difference between the rib cages. This one, despite being on a more humanoid figure, is less humanoid rib cage. This one over here is actually more human, which makes it a little more creepier because it almost looks like a rib cage that has been rotting under black flesh, and it's much more relatable to look at compared to human anatomy. The backs of these fellows have also quite the big difference. This one has very more tendrily looking tubes coming from its back, and this one over here, it looks much more just like tubes. These look like they might be able to flex and maybe even grab things, even though we know they can't, but they look like they could, as opposed to these, which are very still and in place looking. One of the major differences between these two figures is their tails. The tail that's in the back is very tiny, almost seems to have no power, while this one right here, which is the Alien vs. Predator tail, is very bony, very powerful, and much more thicker, and has a less of a flat, squished, three-dimensional look to it. And as we go down the tails, you will notice there's also a difference at the end. The Alien vs. Predator tail is much longer, much more evolved, and has a much deadlier weapon at the end. The alien from the first movie, and the big chap who was in it, did have a deadly tail. He did kill, I believe, one person very openly and very obviously with its tail, kind of impaling them from the bottom of their body, which tells us that this is a pretty sharp object. But then this guy over here has a very spearhead, skeleton style, almost vertebrae looking tail, which is interesting because these I think would not be as sharp as this. What do you think? Do you think this is a better weapon or this one? Either way, both are cool. So let's look at the Alien vs. Predator figure himself. We're not going to take a look at the differences between their posability, but we will take a look at the individual posability of the Alien vs. Predator alien. So this guy being much bigger is a lot harder to handle on my tiny little set, and I think I might have to switch out these beautiful pictures for something else, because unfortunately my camera is having the hardest time focusing on the aliens. I'm sure if it was anything else it'd focus easily, but choosing between the dark black object that's obscuring everything versus the colorful little people behind, it's choosing the colorful little people. It's so frustrating. But for now, it's like this. So, moving on from my technical difficulties, Alien vs. Predator Grid Alien. So, this guy is different in some ways, but not all ways when it comes to posability. Just like the previous aliens, he does have an ankle joint. It's not extremely flexible, but it is there. It can move, it can rotate, and just like the other aliens, he has a toe piece, and as we pointed out, his feet are much different from the humanoid looking ones that we're used to on our aliens. He also has knee joints, the same. There's a joint here, a joint there. Should be able to oops, get your big ass tail out of the way. He should be able to heel kick his booty. He's actually not as flexible as the old aliens, but that's mostly because his calf is much thicker and not as straight as the previous ones. Going up to his hip, this is the joints they have, ball joint, and I believe, well, he is showing lots of flexibility is there, but because of this huge crest that is now on the alien, which was not on the humanoid one was just hips and down. This one has a almost outward jutting hip bone, kind of like the alien queen. But this piece right here, as you can tell, is preventing him from doing a few poses, but as for that, he's still got regular rotation. Back and forth, quite easy, absolutely no issues. This guy came in 2016, so he's a newer one. He's not the 2017 ones, which I think I need to open next. I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. Let's see. The other aliens used to have a ball joint in here. It looks like this isn't fused together, so let's find out. Yeah. So his torso flexibility is pretty much like all the old ones. There's a joint there, but there's basically no reason for them to even have a joint there other than rotating, but they could have just put that there, I guess. I don't know. This is just like the old aliens. The joint that's up there is nigh unstoppable. It's nigh unmovable, and, well, in my opinion, useless. But if you like rotating your aliens at a weird, awkward angle, go right ahead. That's what that joint's there for. Hands. The hands are a little nicer than the old aliens. They do have their joint right here still, which is nice, so they can move up and down. But the extra little feature that the new one has, or at least this guy, is that they have little grabby hands. The other aliens do not have little grabby hands. You're stuck with the pose they give you, and that's it. So you can kind of have their fingers up, have them shut, close them, grab onto things, whatever you may please. I would like one day if maybe they put metal inside the fingers so I can just pose them however I wish. Elbow joints are the same. Actually, no. The elbow joints on the old aliens was only one ball joint. This is exactly like the knees and has two areas of bending. So, 1 and 2. I think they might have done that for design purposes. I'm not too sure. Because the other aliens could flex almost all the way up, but this guy seems to be limited despite his extra jointage. Jointage. God. Going up to his shoulders. He's got quite a bit of flexibility. That seems to be as far as it'll go before this joint seems to start to want to pull out, which we don't want that to happen. We don't want to be like No Elbows McGee over there with a broken arm. And basically, all your other joints and stuff. Man, his tail is really getting caught in everything down below. Jesus. It's so big compared to the other aliens. I can't get over it. But same as all the other arms, very basic. And his head, I'm excited to move his head. I haven't done that yet. Because his head looks like they put the ball joint closer to the neck than way up here, which the other ones have. So he might be. He's a little more flexible, not extremely. Like the aliens in the movie, they can move their heads so their body's like this and they're looking straight at you, but that's kind of hard to do with an action figure unless you put some type of sliding joint here, but then you're gonna ruin or mess with the design that's on the backs, which is very nice, at least for this one, I think. So that's about his movement for his head, and hopefully, like all the other ones, his mouth can move. Yes. His mouth can move, not as easily, but just as much. Most of them can hyperextend, so you can see that weird round piece right there, which shouldn't really be showing. I'd say that's about it, even though the aliens in the movie can open their jaw much wider to make room for their little mouth dude. This should be able to come out, but, oh, there we go. I was going to say, whether we get it out or not is a different question. And just like the other aliens, he has a little tiny mouth. Although the mouth in the other aliens is actually a little bit bigger, which is kind of funny. So this guy is taller, more muscular, a little more feral, with a bigger tail, but a smaller mouth. And overall, design and texture is much more realistic because it's based off a CGI model and because it's a newer one. I don't know if the newer aliens are a little more textured because they're CGI or because they're just newer, or is it just because they want the difference between the new and the old to be extremely obvious? Like looking at the sky, you're like, that is an Alien versus Predator alien. looking at the other one, you say, hey, that's from the older movies, the original movies. So maybe that's what it is. Because they could have made him look a little bit like that one. Actually, they could have took the exact same design and just put a grid pattern on his head. I'm sure people would have bought it. But they went the extra mile and made the exact Alien vs. Predator body, anatomy, and everything. So that's extremely appreciated. So what do you think? Are you going to add this guy to your collection? He's already in mine, and I completely recommend him. He's very nice, extremely good looking, and it's going to be a nice little piece to go with your Predators as well. This alien is Alien Sama approved. Highly recommended. I hope you guys get him or find him. $34.99 Canadian, so maybe he'll be less in the United States and other countries. If you find him and you don't have him, grab him. We'll see you guys in the next unboxing video, and as always, peace out, guys. Bye-bye.